But underneath that was just how deeply I loved her.
This is The Deep Dive with Adam Roa.
What is up, deep divers? Thank you very much for joining me for another episode of The Deep Dive. And today is a deep dive musing. It means that it's just you and me. We're going to cover the topic of how I finally got over my ex. Because it has been a long and complicated process. And when I say finally got over, I also don't mean like I don't still have moments of really missing her, or moments of like, nostalgia, let's say. That still comes up sometimes, but what has shifted is my ability to finally move on. And it happened in a really tangible way that I think can help you, especially like if you are struggling to move on from anything, right? Like it doesn't have to just be a romantic partnership. If you are struggling to move on from something in your past that you keep holding on to, I believe that this is a recipe for how you can move through it. And so that's why I wanted to share it with you today. Before I dive into that, I want to remind you, let you know, in case you didn't know, my album Permission is available on my website, adamroa.com. There is an epic essential oil that has been created specifically to go with this album as well. If you're interested in going on this ceremonial listening journey that I've created that blends poetry and storytelling and music in a completely unique way that you will have never experienced before, or if you're interested in getting this cleansing oil that is has sacred plants in it, there's sage and Palo Santo and cedarwood and more stuff that has been blended to help you clear energy and set powerful intentions moving forward. If you're interested in either of those things, head to adamroa.com. And then also, if you get value out of this podcast, please help me share it. Share it with people you love, post it to social media, and definitely leave a review on iTunes or follow on Spotify or YouTube or wherever it is, because I really would appreciate that support. Okay, so today's topic, right? How I finally got over my ex. So I was in the midst of the most difficult breakup in a lot of ways, because in my previous breakups, for the most part, it was once broken up, it was like, okay, we're done, right? And even after my 10-year relationship, through that breakup, there was a knowing that this was the right decision for me and the right decision for her. It was a mutual decision. There was an understanding that we were being called into a new chapter of our lives, and that was massive, and I could lean into that. And this most recent breakup, even though we only dated for a little over a year, was so hard because I continually questioned whether it was the right decision or not. There was so much that worked well in our relationship. There were so many things that felt like such a divine aligned fit that I would regularly wake up in the morning having just dreamt about her and be like, what am I doing? This is so stupid. Like just allow yourself to be in love. Like allow yourself to love this woman. And yet something kept saying that no, don't do that. And there were a number of things that happened during the course of the breakup. There was, she lied to me about some stuff. And then there was a period of no communication where there was just like blocked on social media and all the things. And so like there was a period of time where we were in the like what's going to happen. And during that time, the actions that happened probably on both sides, right? I haven't spoken to her from her perspective necessarily, but I imagine she has her own story around it. So the perspectives from both sides weren't necessarily thrilled with how the other person was going about it, right? And that was a painful experience, right? There was a hurt, there was wounding that consistently was being triggered during that process, and it didn't stop the back and forth of I want this person, I don't want this person, I think this is the right relation, I'm not going to continue to fight for this. Like that whole back and forth thing of not knowing, the struggle to actually move on was very, very real, because I desired to move on. I desired to let it go. I did not desire to be in the back and forth. And yet, for whatever reason, I just couldn't seem to let it go. And then comes this ayahuasca ceremony. And I wasn't even really, I wasn't going into the ceremony having anything to do with this relationship. But at a certain point, after my third cup of medicine, I was sitting there meditating, and this woman just firmly pops into my experience. Like I can feel her presence there. And in that, I begin to cry. I begin to sob, like deep, deep mourning of how the question, like, how did we get here? How did something that was so powerfully, like, all-consuming, how can a love so deep lead to a place where we like can barely even talk to each other now? Like, how did that happen? And I'm sobbing and I'm mourning, and then I begin purging and throwing up into this bucket, and I'm seeing all of these timelines flash before my eyes of the realities that I had some level in my unconscious attached myself to without even realizing it. Like us having children together, us, touring the world together, like all of these things that I hadn't even really consciously spent much time thinking about, but they existed back there in my unconscious. And I'm releasing them, right? Through my crying and through my throwing up. And as I'm releasing this, I'm brought back to the moment that I see her for the first time and the moment that we meet. And like you can see the smile on my face right now if you're watching the YouTube video, but it was magic. It was there was never a time in my life that I had experienced anything quite like that. So out of body, very much like someone took over the controls and was like, you need to go right up to this woman right now and meet her. And that brought up even more sadness, right? And I'm crying and I'm going, well, how did we get here? And all of a sudden, this voice in my head says, would you have rather you never met her? And that shifted everything. Because in that moment, I realized that I would choose that path 10 out of 10 times, 100 out of 100 times. Because I am a better person because of that relationship. I am a better human. I am a better artist. I am a better lover. I am a better partner. I am better in basically every conceivable way because of that relationship. So if I would choose that path every single time, what that means is that I got to live the best possible choice of my soul. Like that's what my soul would have chosen every single time if given the choice. I got to live my dream. And just because it ended in a way that I didn't see coming, just because it ended in a way that hurts and is sad in a lot of ways, that does not mean that it wasn't aligned with my dream life. I got to live my dream life with her. And so what that did was it shifted me into a space of what other reality, like what other areas of my life would I have such a hard, would I cry about so deeply and hold on to so tightly that was aligned with like the choice that I would make every time. I think about my dog, how much I love little Serendipity, and she's going to pass away at some point. And the sadness that I'll feel is going to be very real. But in no way would I take back having her just because of how much it hurts to not have her there anymore. And yet when it comes to relationships, it seems to be the only area in life where collectively people like look back with regret almost. And I refuse to do that. Now, after this realization that all there really is to do is celebrate it. Celebrate that relationship. And that's what shifted for me. I moved into a deeper space of love and celebration for the time we got to spend together. It moves me into a space of just deep appreciation for this human that I continue to love so deeply. In fact, the celebrating of the relationship helped me move into a space where I actually love her more now than I did when I was in the space of trying to get over it. Because when I was in the space of trying to get over it, there was a lot of focusing on the parts of me that were upset, focusing on the parts that were angry with her, focusing on the parts that were struggling to forgive, like the lies and stuff. And yet, I am not turning my back to those feelings. Those feelings are still present. Those feelings continue to be a part of the experience that I get to move through and honor and feel them when they show up. And like when she starts dating someone else, which the type of person she is, I imagine would happen probably sooner than for me. And so I'm going to get to experience that. And there will probably be other feelings that arise. Sure. But the difference is that the foundation upon which I'm viewing the whole thing comes from a deep space of love and gratitude and appreciation. Her dating someone new doesn't take away what we shared. Me being a more aligned, epic version of myself as a result of that relationship doesn't go away unless I choose to stay stuck and focused on the parts of me that aren't that. I can choose to focus on the quote negative aspects. And if I focus all my attention there, it's going to put me in a vibration that is of a lower frequency than I desire to be. But if I just drop in to the appreciation and the gratitude and the love that's still there and still present, it supports me in celebrating it, which supports me in letting it go. There's a sweetness to celebrating something that has ended. Like a nostalgic memory of looking back on that time in high school when you had that thing and you're like, oh, that was so much fun. That was so epic. That's the energy shift. And so for you in your life, whatever it is, the fact that you're struggling to let it go, that you're holding on to it with any sort of resistance at all, is actually a sign of how much you care. It's a sign, it's an indicator of how much love is there. And so what we get to do as we move through life in every way is just align ourselves with the love as often as we possibly can. In every scenario, we get to choose love. And so What the plant medicine ceremony helped me realize is I had been looking at it through the lens of fear, looking at it through the lens of what if I made a mistake? What if we're like soulmates that are meant to have a family and I've just ruined the whole thing? What if she meets someone that she loves even more and then we're like all of this fear-based stuff. And fear even of like, well, she lied and like now I'm traumatized. Can I trust again? Like the fear-based stuff. But underneath that was just how deeply I loved her and how deeply I appreciated and loved so much of that relationship. And I get to tune into that whenever I want. Like now, if you're watching the YouTube video, you can see it. I'm smiling, just being in the energy of it, which is a huge, huge step. A huge step. And you get to do the same thing. Because how deeply you might be struggling to let something go is how deeply you have love at the core of that. So find where the love is. Find that love, attune to it, celebrate it, and watch as that allows you to actually move forward. I hope this was helpful to you. It's been a massive release on my end. It's been such a game changer, and I'm going to use this in so many other areas of my life. And how funny, because then I can even view my past relationship through the lens of me continuing to learn and develop into a more loving human, which just gives me more appreciation and more gratitude and repeats the cycle. So create those cycles for yourself. Let go. Find the love. Live in joy. If you found this helpful, please leave a review on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you're listening to this. I want to remind you that always, in all ways, you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved.